Hello, this is Melanie here from the Ninth Climax, and I'm here to present to you what is the beginning of a three-part series of deck text from the brand new Monogatari second season Weiss Schwarz booster. So pretty excited to bring you these decks. Just as kind of a note before I begin, I originally only had the second set to build with and playtest with for the past couple of weeks. So I'm going to be going over at the end of the video. I finally got in some of the older Bake Nisei Monogatari cards that would definitely improve upon this deck and that you would probably see, and I will go over those at the end. But for those of you who are out there who love the series but don't own the older cards, what you're going to find out, and what I've discovered from my playtesting over the past several weeks, is that Monogatari plays pretty well just by itself. The older cards certainly make for stronger decks, but the series in itself is just a really nice update to the series, and within itself is just super strong. So if you're just here to net deck, there are, to start off this video, there are 4 of the 0-0 Mayoi Hachikuji. She is a Riki clone, and when she side attacks, she can give a strange character 1500 power for the turn. 0-0 Nadeko Sengoku Goddess. She is a stock reverser, so when she becomes reversed, you may, and it is a may ability, choose to reverse your battle opponent, send them to your opponent's stock, and then your opponent takes the bottom card of their stock and puts it in the waiting room. She also has experience. If you have the 3-2 Girl with Bangs, Nadeko Sengoku, in your level zone, on play, choose a level 1 or higher strange character and give it +1 soul for the turn. And that is not a May ability, so if you have and meet those requirements, you do have to do it. 3 of the Yotsugi Ononoki. And I'm going to double check the beginning of her name here really quickly so I don't mess it up. And there we go, little girl. She is on play. Give a strange character 1500 power for the turn. She can target herself. And on play, reveal the top card of your library. If it is a strange character, add it to hand, and then discard a card from your hand to the waiting room. Essentially, a very nice hand filter. 3 of this +500 in front assist. Tsubasa Hanakawa, Temporary Farewell. She also has experience. If the level in your zone is 3 or higher, you may go ahead and activate this up to once per turn. When you play another character from hand to the stage, you may choose to go ahead and scry the top card of your library, leave it on top, put it in the waiting, or put it underneath of the bottom of your deck, and then that character that you played gets 500 power for the turn. This 0-0 2000 power base, Tsubasa Hanakawa, extended hand toward the past. On play, or when she becomes reversed, you may scry the top card of your deck, either leave it on top or put it on the bottom. Really great tech. Into level 1, we have 4 Oddity Killer Shinobu Oshino. Experience. If the level in your level zone is 2 or higher, she gets 1000 power. And then she has a climax combo with the 1k1 punish burn to spell chanting to when her battle opponent becomes reversed, search for a strange character. 3 of the Araragi-san Hating Act Mayoi Hachikuji. She is 6000 power base, and if you have experience 2 or higher in your level zone, she gets 1500 power and hand encore. Running 1 of this 1500 vanilla little girl, Shinobu Oshino, character kind. 4 of this event, Kuchinawa. It is an event where when you play it, look at the top 4 cards of your deck, choose a strange character from amongst those cards, add it to hand, put the rest in the waiting room. Level 2 features 2 level assists. It is the Nadeko Sengoku Uroboros Cat's Cradle. It's a level assist in this deck. She has a climax combo that is not being run in this deck that allows you, if you fulfill the conditions, to choose a character on your opponent's field to bounce. But I am not running that combo in this deck. 1 copy of Hachikuji Mayoi-san. She is a 7000 power base, 2-1, but has a special ability that when she becomes reversed, if the battle opponent of her is higher than your opponent's level, you may choose to reverse that character. 2 of Devilish Girl, Nadeko Sengoku. She is a 2/1, 7,500 power, and when she attacks, if she is facing a level 3 or higher character, she gets 6,000 power for the turn. So essentially making her a 13/5 before any assists. This is Black Kanakawa, Favor for Master. It is a 2/1, 3,000 vanilla character counter. At level 3, we are running 4 of this 3/2 Mayoi Hachikuji, Smiles until the end. On play, she heals. Her second ability on play is you may choose a strange character and give it +1 soul and punish burn for the turn. At the encore phase, this card goes to memory. So, last level 3 in the deck is Girl with Bangs, Nadeko Sengoku. On play from hand to the stage, or if by the effect of a card that can change into her, which is not being run in this build, you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, choose 1 card from amongst them, add it to your hand, put the rest in your waiting room. She also has a climax combo with For the Sake of My Own Dream, which is a climax comeback trigger, 1k1, that when she attacks, reveal the top 5 cards of your library. For the number of climaxes revealed this way, deal X amount of damage to your opponent. She also gets 5,000 power for the turn when she attacks. The climax spread in this deck features 4 of this climax spell chanting. And this is the one that combos with the level 1. As well as we are going to go ahead and feature 4 of For the Sake of My Own Dream, which is the climax combo for the 3/2 Nadeko. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how this deck runs and kind of what you're looking for level by level. And then at the end of the video, I'll go over some of the things that you could tech in from other series to make this a little stronger. So at level 0, running a very kind of utility-based setup, it does not hit really great power levels, although that you can stack power levels to kind of get there. Quite frankly, though, if you come up against any really huge walls, you're probably going to have to stock reverse them with Nadeko Sengoku Goddess, to be quite frank. But there are some other cards that I'll talk about at the end of the video that if you want a little bit more of an aggro, power, savvy level 0 game, you can definitely opt for it. So the 0/0 Mayoi gets pretty much anything into your hand, level 0, level 1 that you might need. Obviously, her biggest target is probably going to be our 1/0 Shinobu search combo, but she can also put out a 0 that you need for tech options, and she can also pull out you know, the 1/1 Mayoi if that's something that you need, or the character counter. It doesn't matter, but she kind of sets you up for early game. Her side attack ability can help stack on one of the other characters, especially her and her, to give something power till the end of your opponent's turn. You can also use it at level 1 if you need to side attack and give a Shinobu Oshino Oddity Killer and some extra power. I will, however, mention, though, side attacking with this card at level 1 is a little risky if you know you're facing a set that has an on-reverse effect level 1 combo. That's kind of something you have to kind of make a decision about and gauge how important that is. The stock reverser, I very rarely in this deck light her second experience ability, which is a must from the wording. Quite frankly, at level 0, I tend to really try to make sure, if at all possible, I can get a 3/2 Mayoi yellow in my clock and use that to level with. So Girl with the Bangs, Nadeko Sengoku, is rarely ever in the level zone for her ability to light. But as a stock reverser, she, on your turn, emphasis here, takes care of some pretty annoying problems. Now, your opponent can still get these out, but she can temporarily delay, like, on reverse go to memory abilities, such as Hibiki anti-heal. You could also compare it to You from Charlotte. She delays and can delay some of the other, like Terraformers search on memory. Just be aware, though, that it has to be on your turn, because because you have priority, her on reverse effect takes precedence before theirs. If they let it on their turn, they get theirs before your ability goes off. So kind of just be aware of that card tech, that you have to you can't just leave her sit on the stage and expect her to do that. The blue level 3s in this deck, this card is probably one that is, I've grown to love it in my playtesting, but I can see some people not caring for it because of the 2000 power base. But this Hanakawa, on play or when she becomes reversed, scry the top card of your deck, either leave it on top or put it on bottom. This card, early, great first turn play if you can get it off, allows you to make sure you don't trigger a climax in a deck that wants to build some stock and make sure that it's clean to compress and to pay for abilities. Her on reverse is just icing on the cake, because your opponent has to deal with either you scry a damage to the bottom, and if they attack it first, or if they attack it last, you get to control what you draw. Because you get to scry and go, oh, I want that card drawn? Great. Or, no, I don't want that card. I'm going to send it to the bottom. And that is really powerful. If I had room, I'd run it as a 4-of, but unfortunately, I just don't have room in this build. This Hanakawa, and I love how Hanakawa got all these scry abilities in the set, is a plus 500 vanilla and front assist, and has the scry ability as well, only hers doesn't activate until level 1 at the earliest. Most of the time I can get it off at level 1. I would say I've only had about 5% of games where I got really just bad clock choices. I'm running 8 level 3s, so to be quite frank, majority of the time this is you have experience 3 at level 1. She helps power up Oddity Killer Shinobu, and she also just keeps stuff from triggering that you either want to search, or, you know, is it a climax? Send it to the bottom. And because Shinobu searches, you don't end up with like a bunch of stuff on the bottom. It ends up getting shuffled back in, which works out pretty well for the deck. Lastly, the Yotsugu Ononoki doll. She is another way to power up Shinobu Oddity Killer. She's another way to stack power, even on herself at level 0, to try to get over some things. She also is a hand filter, which is kind of nice because we are running a climax comeback, so sometimes you get some extra climaxes in hand. Not only can she power up something all game, but she also has that hand filter that right before refresh you can get rid of something, hopefully, or you can get rid of something that you don't need for something you do need. If not, you just end up discarding that card that you revealed, and if it's a climax, well, then you know you can do something. You know you can do something about it. So that's level 0. Level 1 is a little on the sparse side, but I actually have not had any problems with it at all, because typically it ends up panning out. So we are running the following setup here. So I'm going to start off with Shinobu Oddity Killer. She has a Shimakaze effect. I know 5500 doesn't seem like a really great base, but she does combo with the 1k1 Punish Burn, so she's going to be a 6-5 minimum, which, quite frankly, if they left a bunch of zeros on the field, is going to be more than enough. I'm just going to put this out here because this is the climax that she combos with for her climax combo. I will say that this series has lots of ways to get this particular card up in power level. Now, with just running the Monogatari series, I'm running 2 zeros that either can side attack give power, on play give power, and also the Hanakawa assist. If you can activate her experience, that gives that character that has on play the scry ability also 500 power for the turn. So she easily stacks up in power level, typically at least hitting 7k, 7.5. And honestly, if you needed to hit more than that, she can. Are these cards always going to be high targets for character counters? Of course. But, you know, hopefully you're able to light more than one and at least get off 1 or 2 search effects. So, honestly, considering the depth that the set has, she really honestly hits very decent power levels. Now, there are a lot of arguments for what I'm running as my second level 1 attacker, and I'm going to go over that at the end of the video. But I've chosen the 1-1 Araragi Hating Act Maoi Hachikuji. She is a 6,000 power base. If you have experience 2 or higher, which majority of the time you're going to because you want Shinobu to get her power from experience, she gets 1,500 power in Hand Encore. And it's really nice because you can use a level 0 or something you don't need in your hand to keep her around. She also typically sits on the field as an 8K, and that means when you play Shinobu's Climax combo, she's a 9K, and she's just a really big threat. So for the most part, they're going to be reluctant to try to use her as an on-reverse ability. But going from there, I am running one 1500 character counter for mostly the Mayoi. The Shinobu is one of those cards where I wish, she'll usually sit on the field at 6K, but most things are going to be able to get over that pretty easy. So it's really only Mayoi we're worried about saving. And the reason for the character counter is because if we can't use it to save her, we can use it to hand encore in majority cases. Finally, to finish out level 1, we're running 4 of this camera clone event, Kuchinawa. It is a free brainstorm, but the downside is that it is an event and you have to draw into it. So another card choice that some people may definitely want to like tech, opt out, and change, and I'll discuss it at the end of the video. But I kind of have found it to be pretty consistent. I'm running a playset of it. I almost always see at least 1, if not 2, and yeah, sometimes I've lit 3 in a turn. It's a guaranteed brainstorm. You don't have to hit a climax because most of the time you're going to get a strange character. And I think I've only had 1 time where I didn't hit anything with it that I got really super unlucky, and it was like another Kuchinawa and a couple of climaxes. But for the most part, there's almost always something to add to hand. And you know what? You don't want to play it. You use it to hand on core Mayoi. You, most of the time though, can get something good at it, and you didn't spend any stock. So yeah, it's a hand filter because you're exchanging the event for a strange character, but it's a free brainstorm, and you're almost always going to be guaranteed a plus out of it, and not just a that. So level 2 is very techy because Shinobu can, for the most part, search out what you need. Another little jab of argument, and I'll go over it at the end of the video. I have opted to run 2 of the kind of anti-level 3 early drop change cards rather than a change into a early drop 3/2 that the set could offer. Some people will opt to swap out cards for that. I just felt that it helped preserve my stock for late game. It gave me a more compressed refresh, and it just really overall worked out well. The deck builds really great stock, but I felt like not having to pay out all of it at level 2 and just kind of waiting for level 3. So 2-1 level assist, Nadeko. I'm not reading the climax cover, so I'm not going to really go over it. 2-1 updated level 3 or higher Slayer, Nadeko. She gets 6,000 power. She's going to be a 13,500 before I even add like maybe a card like this behind her to give her and make her 14,500 before I play Climax, before I play the Hanakawa. I mean, some of the new level 3s that drop early do get a lot of power. And yes, this is certainly within counter range, but compared to the older variants of this card, really solid. I really like this Mayoi. I am only running it as a one of because, ideally you do want to keep characters on the field. But she doesn't keep her threat on your opponent's turn. It's only when she attacks that she gets power. This Mayoi is always a threat. But she is kind of definitely anti-change, anti-early drop level 3 card because she reads when she becomes reversed, the battle opponent is level 3 or higher, or I'm sorry, not level 3 or higher. If it's higher than your opponent's level, then that character becomes reversed as well. With the 7,000 power base, if you don't play anything extra behind her, and maybe you just have a Hanakawa in the back row from earlier in the game, she's probably going to get her effect off. You do have to be careful, however, if you attack with her first and your opponent's like at 2-5, 2-4, and you level them, her on-reversibility won't resolve. So you kind of have to be smart about when you search for which tech option. But against decks like that put up huge power walls, like Attack on Titan, Devil Hamura, for a couple of examples, any of the early drop level 3s like Sayaka, Saya from Girlfriend Beta that get, and Onodera from Nisekoi that have, at the beginning of your opponent's draw phase, give this character 4K, are definitely good targets for this card because this card is going to reverse them no matter how big and power level they got. I am running one copy of the 2-1 vanilla 3000 Favor for Master Black Hanakawa counter. So that's more for late game. Level 3 has, again, some arguable synergy, but maybe a little bit unexpected from some other builds. But I've found it to work out really, really well. So I am running the following setup. Typically, one of these ends up in my level zone. The deck only needs experience 3 to go off, which is a little odd for a Monogatari series deck. Most of the time, they have to hit 5 or 6 almost every game to get all their abilities, but this deck is a little less focused on that. So the Mayoi Hachikuji smiles until the end. On play is heals, and on play it chooses a character and it gives it +1 soul and punish burn for the turn, and that punish burn can activate up to once. And then at the end step, at the encore step, this goes to memory. This 3-2 Nadeko combos with For the Sake of My Own Dream, this climax here. A look at top 3 cards on play or by a change effect not being run in this deck, and you can choose one card, add it to hand. Yes, you may add the climax. Yes, you may add like a Kushinawa event. You don't have to reveal it to your opponent either. You put the rest of the cards in the waiting room, and then she has the climax combo with For the Sake of My Own Dream. On attack, mill the top 5 cards for the number of climaxes revealed, deal that much damage to your opponent, and then she gets 5,000 power for the turn. Technically 6,000 power because the 1K one will be out. So she gets really big, and that's even before I play a level assist or have a Hanakawa assist. So she's going to usually reverse something. So what this deck tries to do is you kind of want one of these and 2 of these, or you want one of these and 2 of these at level 3. And the idea is that you play Nadeko first, you search for your climax, hopefully you get it. Play a Mayoi, heal, punish burn effect, heal, punish burn effect. And with her, now this kind of gets around anti-damage counters just a little bit, not very well, but her ability for her climax combo is on attack trigger. So even if they're going to anti-damage counter her, what'll end up happening is that you'll have punish burn at least on the mill effect, which may or may not be relevant. The other thing is that her main attack has a slightly higher chance at canceling, especially if you stack 2 punish burns on her, which is why I typically don't do that. But even with just the 1K one out and her being 2 soul, if I give her the 4th soul here, she can usually get a punish burn trigger then on her main attack, which, great, if it sticks, it sticks. If it doesn't, you did another damage. You could also, if they top deck cancel her burn attack, activate the punish burn then. You kind of have to make that call based off of some statistical thinking. Just bear in mind that you can't light the punish burn on both of her, like burn on her burn and her main attack. It only activates up to once per turn, so if you decide to resolve it on a canceled like of her burn, then you cannot activate it if her main attack cancels. Then this Mayoi goes to memory, which, yeah, that's not really the best thing sometimes. I can see that's definitely a downside to the card. It's certainly flavorful. But on the flip side, it's hard to protect stuff at level 3 these days. Most level 3s get up really big, and a lot of level 3s have pretty nasty on reverse effects. So leaving one less target to be reversed by either somebody's clock kick or Mariko restander or restander in general is not honestly a bad option. So all right, so to finish out this video, there's just been introduced to the series so much depth that there is tons of room for argument on the build that I just showed you. And I'm going to show you a couple of cards here at the end for each level that you might want to consider running, that people will consider running instead of the cards that I just showed you because they are looking for more options. So let's go ahead and start. Well, I'll start off. I'm going to pull some of these back. Start off here with Bake and Nisei Monogatari cards. So I like the Kuchinawa event, but you can't search it. And sometimes you do just need a level 0 brainstorm, or you want to search it. So options that you can run is from Bake. This is the 00 1000 power base Mayoi Hachikuji. She has the typical pay 1, rest 2 characters. Brainstorm for each climax, search a strange character. The problem with this card is that her first ability, which can be seen as a plus or a negative, is that if you control a blood trait character, she gets 2000 power for the turn, which makes her a 3k attacker with Brainstorm. Typically, we'll want Brainstorms usually in most builds to stick around for a turn or two early game to mill through damage, maybe get pluses. So the fact that she would be an attacker isn't terrible, but the thing is that you typically want these to help out in the back row somehow because they're going to sit there. The other problem with her is that, at least in my build, because I'm running a good variety of some of the different girls, is at level 0 and even level 1 with the Shinobu combo, there are not a lot of blood characters to trigger her getting the 2k power. So while she can become a 3000 power attacker, and it's definitely feasible, it is not as easy as it might seem. Moving on. So from Nisei Monogatari, there are 3 level 0s that are definitely worthy of consideration. So the first one here that I want to go over is another brainstorm option. It's the 0025 2500 Hatagi. She is a hand filter salvage brainstorm. I am not running any salvage in this deck, so some people may choose this as their brainstormer just because it gives you that tech option. And you do build through the deck pretty fast, so if you can't search it, well, then you could salvage it. She is a pay 1, spammable brainstorm for each climax, salvage, and then ditch a card from hand. Really, really, really strong. And she can still attack. 2500 power base is really strong. So she doesn't have any really great like support abilities, but at the same time, solid. This assist is definitely an assist that I could see people running over the 00 Hanakawa. I like the scry ability. I like not triggering my climaxes to stock. I've had really good luck with it. However, this Shinobu Oshino from the Nisei Monogatari set is a global 500 and +1 level to all strange characters on your turn only. And then her second ability is experience 5 or more. She becomes 1000 in front assist. So she's a scalable assist that on your turn gives everything 500 power and a level, which gets around most level reversers. Watch out for level 1 anti-change counters. They do exist. Most people don't play them. Love Live probably has the best costed one out of the ones I've seen, but you should know that they exist. And the +1 level could be seen as a deterrent in most cases. But in some, it just makes your oddity killer Shinobus that much bigger and that much stronger. The one reason that I am kind of a little hesitant about this card, I haven't play tested with it yet, so I may find out otherwise. Obviously, others have had really great success with it, is I don't like that her general assist is only good on your turn. That might seem weird, but with running the 1/1 Mayoi Hachikuji with Hand Encore, I kind of like to have defensive power in this card. Unless my opponent levels me to 2, and I go from 1 to 2, that card is almost certainly going to have to be Hand Encore. She's not really hitting that 8k, 8-5 base. That would be ideal. So, I mean, she doesn't get there very easily, so I could see that my argument is nil. And yes, it's a global assist, but I could see that being an outside. I'm going to triple check this translation just to make sure that I am correct. But this Shinobu is I believe, a uncommon from Nisei Monogatari. And she has, I believe, if there's 1 or fewer other characters, she ends up becoming a 4K. Let's double check it. Yeah, so this is Shinobu Oshino for the help. If you have 1 or fewer other characters, this guy needs 1500 power, which on your turn, I mean, these cards we're used to seeing 1000 power and a level now as a couple of box top promos, but with the Shinobu assist, she'll get the +1 level. So she's not only going to take out level reversers, but she's going to be about a 4 or 5 on your turn typically. So decently strong card. From the Monogatari set, if you wanted a little bit more of a power-based level 0 rather than just kind of techie stuff, These two cards, 3,500 Nadeko, that I believe she can't side attack. This Shinobu Oshino is really interesting. She's kind of a little bit of an anti-Shimikaze. On play, she gets 1,500 power for the turn, making her 3,500 power. And then she has a defensive ability when another of your strange characters is front attacked. You may pay 1, send this to waiting room, bounce that character back to hand. I mean, if they put out a board of Shimikazes or Marikas or on reverse effect characters now, Hibikis, the sets have multiplied. You can pay 1, send her to waiting room, and bounce something back to your hand. This card most likely will still get reversed because they're going to be smart and attack you first, and she cannot light her ability on herself. So that's the downside, but at least you can prevent them from getting off like a double search or a double salvage. Not bad. Next up, another brainstorm option from the set is the 0-0 Hitaki. Plus 500 to center, pay 1, rest 2, brainstorm. Yes, it's not in our colors, but if you really wanted a brainstorm that was a little bit more of assist ability in the back row, it's probably going to be the one that you are going to run. There is a Nadeko that is a draw brainstorm, but those tend to be kind of inconsistent because you just kind of draw instead of pulling out what you actually need. That can be good if you're trying to draw a climax. That can be bad in some cases. So these two red cards from Monogatari. There is another level reverser in the first Baki Monogatari set that is still very good, that you might consider over Suruga, but she is a level reverser, and to make up for the 1,000 power base on play, she gives a character with experience 2,000 power, which is relevant because we have a lot of experienced characters, and we even have a 0-0 stock reverser with experience, so she can power up the stock reverser, and also take care of problems if you don't want to run as many of the stock reverser if you're not a fan of that effect. This is another anti-Shimikaze card, and the reason why I'm going to show it here is just because it's got some really great ways to mess with your opponent. This 2,500 power base, Mayoi Hachikuji, Kid Within the Storm, has the following ability. At the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, you may choose to move a character in their front row to an empty slot. If you do so, she stays on the stage. If you choose not to move something, or you can't move something, she goes to waiting room. So she gets things lost. She herself gets lost. It's a really flavorful card, and it's kind of a new anti-Shimikaze runner that kind of early on forces them either to commit their board or really think about where they're placing stuff. I've had really good luck with it. It usually sticks around for a little while. I am going to mention one last card, although I think it unlikely that most people will choose to run it. But I do think that in some builds, it's some much needed tech. And that would be this 0-0 2000 Nadeko. And I'm going to double check here. She is a common. And I'm going to double check the translation here just to make sure that I tell you the cost right. So the Snake Goddess Girl Nadeko Sengoku has the following ability. When this card is front attacked, you may send this to waiting room, and you may play this 1-0 Nadeko from hand. This 1-0 Nadeko reads that she gets put on play from hand to the stage. She gets plus 500 for each other strange character. Yes, she counts herself. And her last ability is if she reverses a battle opponent, you can choose to level swap, which means it's kind of from the references come Milky Homes mostly, but it allows you to swap a card in your waiting room for one of your level, which can be sometimes useful in this set because you really do need specific level cards and stuff in your level zone, and sometimes you just don't get really great clocks and you can't get there. This is another anti-Shimikaze if you think about it, because if you have a big enough field, this being front attacked would just send this to waiting room, play this from hand, and then maybe even get over their character. And it's when this is front attacked, so it triggers before the counter step, so you can even still counter and back it up. You may or may not need the level swap ability, but I still think it's a really good tech. And it's also 1-0 that on play gets pretty powerful. These cards, yeah, they don't have great defensive power, but you know what? It's not a bad tech for this set. I kind of pulled that out of order, but that's okay. At level 1, there are some other cards that people are definitely going to be interested in running, including that 1-0 I just went over. So there is, from Bakemonogatari, there is a conditional 2k counter to yellow characters. I've actually teched this into my deck. I love it. It's great at level 1. You can make Maoi Hachikuji, Aragi-san Hidingak hit really great power levels. They see this in your waiting room. They start second guessing whether or not that's a good target to attack. More experienced players aren't going to fall for that trap because they know, oh, well, if you don't have it in hand. I am running only one copy of this counter in the deck, and with the 1500 vanilla. And I would say that if you can fit more copies of this in and you want to like tech something out for this card is definitely worth it. No, it doesn't help all your blue cards, but it's still a 1000k counter and you can still split it. Next up is, this is the Shinobu 1-0 attacker from Nisei Monogatari. You most likely have seen it in conjunction before in earlier builds with the 0-0 back row. I'm going to double check her abilities just to make sure again that I am not telling you wrong. She's got a 5000 power base. And let's pull this up. Yes, it's Shinobu Oshino, Blessings of the Moon. Experience, if the sum of level of your cards in your level zone is 2 or higher, this gains plus 500 power, and during your turn, this gains 1000 power. So she's a vanilla on defense, but she gets 1000 power if it's your turn. So she's essentially a 1-0 6500 that with the 0-0 assist gets becomes a 1-0 level 2 7k. Really good. Probably arguably should be running this over the Maoi again to build stock. It's costless. I don't like that it doesn't have any defensive ability. It's going to be a really easy target for most people's Shimikaze and Marika abilities. It's going to be hard to defend even with the 1-0 2k conditional counter to yellow. I also am kind of, with running the Maoi, I'm acknowledging the fact that there are, ever since Symphogear, we've been getting a lot of anti-zero cost cards that if they're facing a 0 cost, they get extra power or they get extra effects or a level. Most of them just get power and a level at this point to make them kind of anti-level 1 reversers. But this card is definitely, you're going to see in a lot of people's builds because it is a very good card on your turn. Costless, hits really good power levels. There's not a lot more to say on that. I just kind of am defending why I was running the 1-1 Maoi instead, besides the theme of just sticking within the set. So this Nadeko is a 1-0 5000 power base, and I'm going to double check that I read her card ability right. There we go. So this is Nadeko Sengoku, information of the object of worship. And if during your turn all the characters on your stage are strange, she gets 2000 power. Again, same dilemma. Yeah, she's a 1-0 7k, but it's got to be on your turn, not your opponent's. So not a lot of great defensive power. I mean, it doesn't necessarily make it bad. It just makes it harder to deal with. So if you wanted to split your colors and go with a little bit of blue, you could. I don't see much of a plus in doing so because having one color at level 1 makes your leveling game really easy to pull off. Although you do lose a little bit of variety because of it. It also makes the some of the counters a little bit more viable. So this Nadeko Sengoku Cute Girl is a 1-1 6500 power that reads, experience, if Girl with the Bangs Nadeko Sengoku is in your level zone, this gains +1 level and plus 1000 power. So she essentially becomes a 7500 level 2, and that's continuous. It's not a only on your turn ability. So she doesn't have any type of hand or encore or clock encore, which maybe be seen as a downside, but with most of the assists in the deck, she's going to be 8k at least, and get around some stuff and cause some problems. So hopefully she stays on the board for a turn. You could also run this in conjunction with the 1500 kind of scalable second ability counter from Bakemonogatari. or some of the other counters in the set. Unfortunately, her yellow counter doesn't work because this is a blue character, but still a decent 1/1. This 1/0 Hanakawa is 4,500 power base, but if you have 2 or more strange characters when she attacks, she becomes a she gets 2,000 power for the turn, and she has Clock Encore. So if you're looking for a Clock Encore to stick in the build, while there are certainly other options in the set, this one is kind of decent. The problem with these is that you're almost always going to have to Clock Encore it. It's not a bad card. I've been running it a little bit in my Hanakawa waifu build that I built, and it's fun. I don't know how viable it is for competitive play, though. All right, so let's talk about late game, some additional options that you might choose to run. Okay, so one of the things I'm not doing in this deck is a change, and there are 2 very good changes in the set into level 3s that are worthy of consideration. They're both Encore phase changes. I believe I will double check the Nisei Monogatari one, but this one I know is. In the Monogatari set itself, this 2/2 AK Shinobu reads, if she's rested at the end phase, pay 1, and you can change into this 3/2 Shinobu Tales the Past. Shinobu Tales the Past, if you have experience 6 or higher, gets plus 2,500 power and hexproof, meaning she can't be chosen for your opponent's auto effects. Her second ability is kind of defensive, which is nice because you do change into her at the Encore phase. And that ability is when damage dealt to you sticks, you may scry the top card of your library, either leave it on top or toss it in the waiting room. You get around some damage sometimes that way. If you have more than one of her on the stage and you're able to pull that off, it stacks, which is super strong. Now, I am decided not to opt for this card, and here's why. Firstly, to get off her change, you pay 3 stock, which isn't a huge deal for your endgame because you build plenty of stock from 0 to 1 with this deck. But you usually end up having to pay out that 3 stock before or right before you refresh, and if you want to get the change off, and that really hurts. You also can't like hang on to this and discard it from hand for a change cost because, well, this one, because it's Encore phase based, it does not require the discard cost. The other thing that I have with this card is it doesn't really help. It helps with Punish Burn, but not in the way that you think it might. There's a recent ruling that we just resolved the other day that the on attack damage sticking ability, that auto ability would trigger after all of cards like Yami or Aro's Punish Burn stuck. So it's still really strong, don't get me wrong. It's just not as strong as some people were want to think. So not a bad card. It has some challenges. Mostly though, I would say being stock. And it's not just me being judgmental or mean, it just is what it is. Okay. Now, this card has gone up quite a bit in value and has another Encore based phase change. It's kind of the opposite. You pay 1 to play it to the stage. It only has 7,500 power base to the 8K, only 1 soul to the 2 soul, which it can be good or bad. And this one, if it is rested, pay 2, send this to the waiting room, and you can change into this 3/2 Shinobu, which is quite pricey at this point. She on play heals, and she gets 1,000 power and hexproof if her experience is met, which is level 6 or higher. So she gets 1,000 power and hexproof from that. When she's changed into her, when she's played from end of the stage, she heals. So she's definitely a heal option. The hexproof is nice because they can't anti-damage counter it. 11k power without really good back row assist or really good counters is just not going to stay on the board at an Encore phase change. If you're running her because you want her for a heal and a chance at no anti-damage counters. This Shinobu has a lot better defensive ability, but of course it just got printed in the new set. So a little judgmental here. I think this card is really good, solid. If you need a heal, definitely consider it instead of the Mayoi. She just doesn't help you finish the game, and the 11k base, even when you put your typical assisters behind it to make her like a 12-5 or even a 13k if she's in the center, it just doesn't hit the power creep, unfortunately. And sometimes when you drop these early change cards, you don't have your ideal back row set up. So I can see an argument for her. I can see arguments against her. I'm just kind of presenting both sides of the story here so people can kind of make their own decisions. But those are both common cards that you might see in various builds. Other level 3s you might consider, I've yet to play test this, but currently one of this deck's weaknesses is it doesn't have really a really great way to deal with like characters that have hand encore at level 3, or that like Yami from To Love Ru Darkness if they've got the assist in the back row, or zombie characters. And as much as I dislike the term, what I mean by that is characters that they have ways to stay alive, like Sukihi from this set, the 3/3, up to once per turn. If she becomes reversed, to return this character to rest. She also is a problem for cards like Yuma from Shining Resonance, Ryoko from Kill la Kill, that it not only can keep it around, but they can also burn you on your turn for it being left. So this Hanakawa is on play, draw 2, ditch 1, which is not bad with the synergy with Sendoku, because with Sendoku, she, you don't have a way to hand filter before you refresh, and if you're stuck with climaxes in hand, this will allow you to hand filter and draw through some stuff. She also is a 2000 power and front assist to all strange characters, as well as experience 6 or higher. All the characters in front of her get the following ability: pay 1. If their battle opponent becomes reversed, bottom deck it. It's a hard decision. You have to play very smart with this card, because a lot of decks today, like Cinderella Girls, are milling through their damage so fast that they'll actually draw the stuff on the bottom of their deck. And some decks, like for example, if they're lucky and have the right cards in hand, like To Love Ru, I mean, if you bottom deck a Yami, yeah, it keeps them from hand encoring it, but they can search it out again and get their draw 2, ditch 1. You also have to be smart in that, like, if you decide to bottom deck something, that it's because you have no other way to deal with it. And it's coming back to cause problems next turn. So you kind of have to be really smart. Her ability is a little stock intensive, but it does give it to both characters in front, and it does combo well with the Nadeko because it's an assist, and the Nadekos get plenty big even before you add her 2K. So it's not a bad card to consider at all. I think it's super playable. All right, so this level 3 Shinobu, Kisushota Acceleron Heart Under Blade. I totally probably just butchered that name. Please forgive me. I will memorize her full name. I think there was a contest on forum to see which card had the most kanji and text in its name in Japanese, and I think this card was near the top of that list, but it didn't win. On play, she's 3/2 10K, and she's an uncommon. So first off, it's an uncommon level 3. On play, search a strange character. I mean, it gets something out of your deck. It gets you what you need to finish the game. Second ability is, and you have to be running her with Tales of the Past Shinobu, which is the other yellow level 3 I just showed. You may rest 2 characters, and I believe it says other characters, not just 2 characters. So you can't like rest her for the ability. You have to rest 2 other characters. You take this card, you put it under her as a marker. She doesn't get anything from the marker. It's just there. And then what happens is you can refresh your library. And then the wording on the card is your opponent puts all of their cards in their deck in the waiting room. So it's essentially force fresh, and your opponent has to take a refresh damage while you don't. This card is got some really interesting abilities. It is very hard to play with. I play tested with this pair, and I gotta tell you, even though the force fresh does damage to your opponent, you gotta be very carefully counting where your opponent's climaxes are, whether they've triggered to hand, whether they're in stock, whether in their waiting room, and you have to be careful how many you put back in their library, because in some cases it's not going to put as much damage back in as more cancel points. So you really have to be smart when you use her refresh ability, because sometimes you can just put yourself in the place where they're going to sit there and attack, or they're going to cancel all 3 your attacks. definitely not bad abilities. The deck builds enough stock to essentially play 4 level 3s at 3. I'm not sure you always want to decompress that much before you light Nadeko's combo, but it's an option. But I just found that her ability is so fitting. It is a double-edged sword. You really have to be paying attention to what's going on in the game state before you light it. The on-play search ability, that is hands down great. I mean, to be able to like fetch this or fetch something else that you need for the turn, that is just not even arguable. So, I'm gonna end up with 2 more cards. This 3/2 Nadeko is kind of more waifu deck based, and the only reason why I say that, you can run her in a competitive deck, and I actually did when I first built this. But she has an interesting ability. So if you have the following 2 cards in your level zone, this 3/2 and the 0/0 stock reverser, if you have those 2 cards in your level zone, this card gets -1 level in your hand, okay? And so she can come out at level 2. When she comes into play from hand to the stage, you take a Kuchinawa event, which is the 1/0 Cameresque event, put it underneath this character as a marker. When this character goes from stage to the waiting room, if she has this card underneath her as a marker, you may change into the 3/2 Nadeko from your waiting room. If this card is not in your waiting room, you may search your deck for this 3/2 and change into it. It's really good. You basically use it on your turn to attack and kill something. And then your opponent has to make a decision about this. Now, a lot of people are going to... There are ways to attack around this. There are ways to get around it, anti-change it. I mean, you name it. There are ways to deal with this card. She also has only a 9,500 power base. And I'll be honest, when I ran her, I didn't even bother putting assist behind her because I didn't want her to stay on the stage. I wanted her to change into that. So, that is definitely an option. She changes into the 3/2. This just goes away to waiting room. The event falls off and goes to waiting room. And then you either change into the 3/2 from waiting room or from the deck. One thing you do have to be careful with this card is that your opponents can't attack around it. They can anti-change it. It's prime anti-change target because it turns into your finisher. And the finisher can pretty easily draw their climax. The other thing is that she is only 9,500 power base, and she is 2 stock, which means that you're probably not going to play a whole bunch else that turn if you're going to pull her off, but you know what? It's a good ability. It also can mill through damage because once you get the change off, you can get the 3/2 other 3/2 Girl with Bangs Nadeko's playability. Finally, I'm going to finish off with 1 level 2 combo that I apparently missed, but I do want to go over from Nisei Monogatari. This 2/1 8,000 1 soul Shinobu series mode combos with a 2K1. So on play, choose a character, give it 2,000 power and +1 soul, draw a card. And basically what ends up happening is this card has a climax combo where when this card attacks, okay, if this is in the climax zone, you may pay 1. If so, this gains 6,000 power for the turn, and your opponent cannot use Encore for the turn. It shuts off all Encore effects. The reason why I mentioned this card, it's a little difficult, but if you decided to run like the other 2 level 3 Shinobus instead of running Nadeko, what you could do is run this climax combo at level 2 and shut off Encore. It's super good. It's even good late game because basically it on attack, pay 1, shuts off Encore, which means if you reverse any characters, they don't get Encore effects. Be careful, there are a few cards that do get around this, but it's still super solid. She gets 6,000 power for the turn, 8k base, so she's going to be a 14k, 15, 16k if you put the climax combo on her. That's really big. That's taking care of something. This is another level 2 option. The reason I'm not running it in my deck is because I didn't have room. I like to split my climaxes 4 and 4, and it's there. So guys, that kind of wraps up this video. Just kind of keep in mind there are a lot of options to run in the set right now. The set has gotten a really, really just great update that's super, super strong. It's going to be almost hard to kind of follow that one up. I hope they do, but just be aware of that. So thank you for watching. Again, the net deck was at the beginning of the video. This article has been written up on the 9th climax, so if you would like it in reading mode to share with somebody, please check it out there. Thanks.